Today we're going to be talking about writing equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. So let's go ahead and get started with a brief introduction of what those are. So parallel lines are lines that never cross. Now here's one important piece that you would want to write down. Parallel lines will always have the same slope. Notice on this line, okay, if I start here, continue on along my line, I have another point here, same on here. I've got a rise of 2 and a run of 3. Rise of 2 and a run of 3. And this is the case for all types of lines. Notice my perpendicular lines. Now, what is the slope of this line? So I've got an increase of 1 and a run of 1. So 1 over 1. My perpendicular line is down 1 and over 1. 1 over 1 and 1 over negative 1 over 1. Now you can't see it with this example, but perpendicular slopes will have opposite, meaning notice it changed from positive to negative, so positive to negative, or negative to a positive. And reciprocal means I'm going to take my fraction and flip it. So we can't see in here because they're both 1, but if I had 2 over 1, 2 over 1 would switch to 1 over 2. So let's determine what a parallel slope would be for each of these examples. If my slope were 1/2, my parallel slope would be 1/2. If my slope were negative 2, my parallel slope would be negative 2, and so on. You get the idea. Now, if I'm talking about perpendicular slopes, remember it has to be the opposite and reciprocal. Remember, opposite is positive to negative and back. Reciprocal, 3 over 2 would switch to 2 over 3. So perpendicular, 2 over 1, and since this was positive, it changes to a negative. I could just write it as 2, negative 2. Negative 2, opposite reciprocal. Okay, remember whole numbers can be written as fractions over 1. So that flips to 1 over 2, and I'm going to change the negative to a positive. 5 over 1 changes to 1 over 5. This was positive, so its opposite reciprocal is negative. And you get the idea. Negative 2 over 3, flip your fractions, and negative. One thing, I'm going to skip these examples. One other option that I want you to remember is a slope of 0. Remember 0 over 1, if I had opposite reciprocal, would change to 1 over 0. Remember, if 0 is in the denominator, the slope is actually undefined. Let's go over a few examples of how to write equations that would be parallel and perpendicular. So here are my steps. First, I'm going to determine the slope. So I'm either going to use my parallel or my perpendicular rules. My second step is I'm going to plug the point and the slope into y equals mx plus b, or y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. You can choose your favorite method. I'm either going to solve for b, or if I'm using this method, solve for y. And I'm going to move on to step 4 of rewriting it, unless I've used the point slope method, in which case I can stop. So let's go ahead and try this example. Write an equation given the following. I want a line that is parallel to this. The only thing that matters in the line that they give me is my slope. So put a box around your slope and you can scribble out everything else. I care about the slope of the line that they gave me and the fact that it says parallel. If it says parallel, I'm going to determine my new slope. My new slope, since it is parallel, should be the same, so 2. And here is the point that I would like it to go through. The y-intercept on the previous line does not matter. I'm going to use either my point slope or my b method to solve. So let's suppose I use my point slope method. Y minus a negative 5, so y plus 5 equals 2 times x minus 3. Distribute. 2x minus 6 y plus 5 minus 5 from both sides, y equals 2x minus 11. Or you can use the b method. Negative 5 equals my slope, 2 times my input, plus b. That gives me 6 minus 6 equals negative 11 equals b. And notice there's my same equation. Let's try another parallel. So again, I notice that it's parallel. The only thing I ever care about the equation is the slope. So negative 1/2. Hey, what slope am I going to use for my new line? The same. I want it to be parallel. Negative 1/2. My point is negative 2, 1. So let's say I use my point slope method. Y minus 1 equals negative 1/2 x minus a negative 2, which means add 2. Distribute negative 1/2 x minus 1 y minus 1 plus 1 y equals negative 1/2 x plus 0. So I leave it off. Now let's try our hand at perpendicular. So when it says perpendicular, I have one extra step. I'm going to pay attention to my slope, but I am not going to just use the same thing because that would give me a parallel line. So take your slope, flip your fraction. 1 over 2 turns to 2 over 1. Since this is negative, I'm going to make mine positive. So this is the slope I want to use. This is the point I want to use. Okay, let's go back. Let's try the point slope method again. So y minus a negative 2 equals 2x minus 3. Distribute 2x minus 6 minus 2 from both sides. Y equals 2x minus 8. And these two lines would be perpendicular. Let's try one more example to make sure you've got the hang of this. So perpendicular to this line. I only care about the slope, and because it's perpendicular, I'm going to convert it. 3 changes to, flip it, 1 over 3. This is positive, so I'm going to use a negative. So this is the slope I'm going to use. This is the point. Y minus a negative 4 equals negative 1/3 x minus 9. Distribute negative 1/3 x plus 9 over 3 simplifies to just a 3. Y plus 4, I eliminate the plus 4, minus 4. Y equals negative 1/3 x minus 1. And that would be my final answer. If you have any questions about writing equations of parallel or perpendicular lines, please reach out to your teacher.